And only last week, Vice President Kashim Shettima launched the revamped National Economic Council Human Capital Development Steering Committee, emphasizing the government's commitments to enhancing workforce participation. In his address, titled The Burden of Trust in Leadership Transition, Shettima charged the committee to prioritize health, education, and employment. He highlights the goal of adding 24 million skilled Nigerians by 2030, stressing the importance of human capital investment for national prosperity.
While this is the take-up of the implementation pace of Nigeria's HCD program under this NEC dispensation, I am convinced that this high-powered steering committee will go to any length to ensure that the program is the success we all desire. Our human capital remains our greatest asset, and investing in its development is not only a moral responsibility, but also an economic necessity. The success of any nation is intricately linked to the well-being and capabilities of its citizens.
Technical agencies and funders who have joined in this effort to see how we can reinvigorate Nigeria's move to improve the human capital of our population. From where it is now, the human capital index of 36%, according to the World Bank index, to a higher number. But also to do it, taking cognizance of the divergence that exists in our country, because there are significant differences from one state to the other, and that states need to invest in health as part of the sector-wide compact, which, as you recall, was flagged by Mr. President in December. Invest in primary health care so that mothers survive, children are healthy, immunized, and they are well nourished, so they have the gray matter infrastructure to grow into productive adults.
We support the record recorded in the last dispensation, which was a dismal 1% on the average. In the 7 years of the program's existence, we were only able to achieve a 1% achievement. I believe with the kind of people we have now and the kind of synergy we are trying to create, the sky could be the limit.
It's about human capital, it's about human beings, it's about the welfare and prosperity of individuals. That's bottom line. And the bottom line of all is about the human capital that is embodied in the individual. It is one area that every citizen, the family is involved, the community is involved, the traditional institutions need to be involved, the foundations, the corporates, and the government, obviously, and as well as our international partners.
And with the constitution of the 25-member committee to oversee the nation's climate action and green economic initiatives by President Bola Tinubu, what are the issues this committee will be looking at? How can the committee help to address the many challenges arising from climate change? Well, having the studios now, Rufai, who is the special advisor to the President on the National Economic Council and climate change. Very warm welcome to Newsnight, Rukaya.
Thank you very much.
Looking quite young, as a special advisor to the President.
Well, I look young, the genes, but I'm not as young as I look.
Oh, right. and the subject matter must be quite overwhelming. Let's start with, the context and the objective of, this committee. What are the key objectives and goals, of the National Economic Council Human Capital Development Project that the Vice President launched only a few days ago?
Thank you very much. I think it's important to highlight that this program started at the last NEC, National Economic Council dispensation, where under Vice President Yemi Osibajo, where the government felt the need to also create a robust strategy to help with the development of human capital development. At that point, there was the ERGP that was robust for the economic and infrastructure and more tangible elements, and there was need to do that complementary. And it's important to note that this is a project that has a very long-term results framework. it's from fetus, not even birth, from fetus because of nutrition component, down to workplace to even old age of a human being. Okay. So we're talking about a program that spans and is equivalent to the life expectancy of a human being. And you know, it's important to applaud President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's leadership and also Vice President Kashim Shettima, especially as the chairman of the national NEC, that they are continuing this program.
Okay.
So the goals is to ensure that 24 million Nigerians are healthy, productive, and educated by 2030. But it's to ensure that Nigerians are well educated, they're healthy, and they have equal and fair opportunities to reach their fullest potential through labor force participation.
Well, it's great. I mean, you've just, in one breath, summarized how the project would align with the government's overall economic and social development strategies. With that skill acquisition for 24 million Nigerians by 2030, what are the indices that you're going to use? Where are you going to distribute these 24 million skilled workers? That's the human capital development we're talking about.
Absolutely. So it's important to note that there are also underlying leading indicators, some around health, including survival of under 5, stunting.
That's nutrition.
Nutrition and generally health. The survival of a child, for the child to even have very good access to education and healthcare. So for example, for the stunting is to reduce it by half. Then, you know, there are some indicators around education that has to do with quality and access to education. Then the labor force, of which, for example, there's vocational training. So it's a very robust, all-encompassive program that has to do with the human capital development. But overall, we're hoping that 24 Nigerians will be healthy, productive, and educated by that 2030. But there are many underlying leading indicators that strive to achieve higher than the 24.
Okay. I was just looking at the implementation plan. You know, has your committee, you know, drawn up any, like asking you, how would the project be coordinated with other relevant initiatives and programs at the national and subnational levels?
Yes, that's a very important question, because when you look at the National Economic Council, the National Economic Council has 2 mandates. Beyond the economic advisory, they're also meant to support the president with the vertical coordination, with the coordination of economic programs. And when you look at it, it's a council that brings together the federal and the subnationals. And then in this particular endeavor, even the donors. So it's a platform where, you know, the vice president as chairman of NEC would play that lead and steer, advocate for better resource allocation, better prioritization to all these elements of human capital development, so that Nigeria's rating can improve vastly, and then to ensure that he also builds on what he inherited with the 2.0, such that we infuse the lessons learned to develop something more sustainable.
Yes, indeed, more sustainable. I hear you say 2.2, 2.0 and the rest. These are technical issues that I want you to break down for our viewers. But let's look at the last NEC meeting, which we understood, and you even said it, inherited from the past administration and being accelerated, the continuity of the renewed hope agenda, is that the vice president inaugurated this new steering committee of the National Economic Council under the auspices of 2.0 or 2.0, as we in broadcasting will call it. What are the plans to ensure continuity or further continuity, and how will the HCD 2.0 ensure that the key achievements of HCD 1.0 are not lost? Are all this coming from the SDGs targets?
Yes, SDGs was a main consideration, and it's important to note that there are partners of progress, partners that, you know, for them there's aligned interest with human capital development. Bill Gates Foundation and Aliko Dangote Foundation and many other donors, they've invested heavily. They funded the development of a robust strategy, which we've inherited. So beyond just at the federal, the states too are meant to develop, yes, cascade and develop their HCD vision. You have some states doing well. For example, Nasarawa that even has an agency and passed a law. And then you have champions like also Kaduna was a pioneer state and all. So we are very much mindful of retaining what has been achieved and what has been designed. We are trying to realign, ensure strategic realignment with the renewed hope, and also refresh it with new trends. For example, gender. Gender is very important and has very strong correlation with going to school, out of school as well. As little as sanitary towel could actually affect a child's ability a girl child's ability to go to school. And what we're trying to do is ensure also climate is an integral. Imagine if there's a clean cooking initiative that is rolled out. And then you imagine for accessibility of healthcare facilities and schools, you deploy solar technology and renewable energy, or you boost and add more STEM education. So we're trying to look at the 2.0, and that's why the steering committee was inaugurated, in addition the core working group too, so that they can steer and guide and have oversight to the development. And we're hoping that the 2.0 will be launched in June by His Excellency the Vice President, alongside, you know, the governors, and we're hoping that you know, it will be launched. Well, another thing, other important elements is a sustainable funding plan. Like I mentioned at the beginning, it's a long-term initiative, so there will be donor fatigue. How can we take more ownership, adopt a PPP approach, such that private sector that is the biggest employer of labor and actually are affected
drivers of the economy too.
Drivers of the economy and human capital too is very important. How can, just like the SDGs, take a PPP approach, then also look at adding more layers of governance, and then even the operating structure. So those are the kind of things. Then going more into building the capabilities for data, because you're looking at Nigeria in a globally competitive context, and we have to move beyond motion, keep the eyes on the ball on the actual HCDI, which is an index that compares countries on human capital.
It looks as if the government of the day, let's talk a bit on climate change. The government of the day is taking the initiative from the CNG, that's the compressed natural gas, because of its cleanness and the rest. And that just seems to be one of several environmental issues the country, you know, is inundated with. Why they start with the CNG and the 10 million trees that former President Buhari promised to plant in Nigeria? Never happened.
Well, you look at the urgency of the fuel subsidy removal and the need to accelerate alternate fuel and alternate mobility. When you look at it and the infrastructure, you know, the case to prioritize CNG is very compelling, because even at NEC, if you recall, Mr. President mandated, he gave the directive to inaugurate the National Economic Council, and it started with the palliative. So clean e-mobility came as top, and alternate energy. I honestly believe in an energy mix, and it's good that we're starting off with CNG. We're hoping also to move into e-vehicles as well, and e-mobility. But it doesn't take away the fact that there are other initiatives that have to do with deforestation, floods too, which is, you know, what some of those climate issues that planting trees will cost. But you have functional agencies actually
They're supposed to be doing that.
No,
but
they
I
are
mean,
doing like
yeah,
Great
but you
Greenwald.
as the special advisor, you know, it's expected that you are in the presidency, you're closer to Mr. President or Mr. Vice President and the rest. So if you tell them the urgency to look at the Sahel, for example, and Lake Chad that is drying up, and for over a decade or 2 decades now, Nigeria has been talking about the mitigation of Lake Chad. There's been the idea of even going to tapping the Congo River into it and all that.
Yes, so you know, there are plans. Those are nature-based solutions, and more like adaptation, climate actions. But we have deliberated and thought through a robust strategy, prioritize some of the areas, including decarbonization, areas in which e-mobility, renewable energy is part of nature-based solutions, where, you know, the planting of trees, the conservation based on the 30 by 30 commitment, where the world met and pledged to conserve 30% of the planet. And you have also green economy, where green manufacturing, renewable minerals, you know, and even sustainable agri.
And the green city being planned by the government. Okay, very quickly, let's you know, focus on this committee by Mr. Vice President.
Yes.
Monitoring and evaluation, that's a key, you know, area that is often overlooked in any policy formulation and the rest. You know, laudable as this project, you know, sounds. But how will the project's progress and impact be monitored and evaluated? And what indicators will be used to measure the project's effectiveness?
Sure. So like you said, M&E, I believe in even meal, monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning. It's really important when you evaluate, you look back, the learnings and the insights you find from the information gathering. So at a program level, we have a team that is focused on data and M&E that is separate from the program team. But you have our Bureau for Statistics at the federal that takes some of these data. And then at subnational, there is a lot of support to help build, you know, the data gathering and the monitoring, and they already have it. But even based on the indicators that the Human Capital Development Index measures, it is part of the program. Recently, the team was in Ghana. There was a ECOWAS HCD technical summit where there was this peer learning, and of course data and M&E was a big part of it. But what's very important is the independent measurement and monitoring
assessment,
done by the UNDP and the World Bank. And we have a very good Minister of Health and Social Welfare as well, and we have MBS, and even at state level they are tracking the data, and we are trying to improve even some analytics and dashboards, so that we're monitoring, like I said, so that we're not in motion, but whatever we're doing and whatever other programs are doing, because at NEC we coordinate, do advocacy and engage stakeholders. The implementation happens at the states, but at least we're tracking to ensure that it's translating into outcomes.
And of course, giving good feedback to other stakeholders and your donors, you know, like the Aliko Dangote Foundation, the Bill Gates et al.
And ECOWAS. So in terms of the specific indices on health and nutrition, you're looking at fertility rates, maternal mortality rate, under 5 mortality, life expectancy at birth, and so on. With education, like I said, it has to do with access and quality. So you're looking at out-of-school children is a big part, an important part. You know, pupil to trained teacher ratio and so on. And then for the labor force,
I'm afraid, Rukaya,
unemployment.
we do not have all the time. I
No
know you
problem.
got so much to tell Nigerians about, you know, this project and how it's going to be accelerated and how it's going to, you know, regenerate a new Nigeria, particularly with the target date of 2030. Thanks so very much, Rufai L. Rufai. She's a special advisor to the President on the National Economic Council and climate change.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much.
for having me.